Hi, and welcome to the Man Myth Podcast. I am Bobby, and today we are talking about The Mask and the Mirror, song from Poor Man's Poison that hit really close to home, and it's going to be a great episode.
Hey, this is Pop, and as always, we're wanting to connect with those people dealing with those demons that are mentioned in this song. Bobby brought it up to me. It was something that I just kind of did some research on. It's a pretty amazing song. I got the lyrics, and you can actually, there's a place where you can feel the pain that whoever is doing this song, but it's also like playing it off as like I'm cool. I'm kind of cool with it at the same time.
Yeah. The whole song just made sense to me. Like it just the whole you'll never know the demons that I hide, that line like really struck a chord with me, because not only in my life, but I feel like in everybody's lives, we all have demons that people don't really know about or that they hide, and which is another reason I think suicide is so high right now, because we try to hide all these demons and all these feelings and all this depression and anxiety and hopelessness, everything. We try to hide that all from the people that we care about because we don't want it to be a burden, but those are the people we need to share it with.
Right. I think that's
It's
in the lyrics. It says, "You'll never know
anybody else.
You'll never know the demons that I fight," and that's because you won't tell us. Right. Just let us know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, it did. This song really puts it into a perspective of how easily it is to hide. And the mask is part of that. We've talked about masks before as actually being
right.
Something that can be productive, but it's also something that puts the burden back on you. And I think that's kind of the scary part.
Well, and we all need to not let this become how we live our lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking at the lyrics, and it just says, "I'll walk around in silence, all the while in need of guidance through the haze." So, like, it's so crazy that these people, like these four guys, just put down in a song like things that I haven't said them this probably eloquently, but it's exactly how I've felt about things. Like, we're walking around without telling anybody what's going on, but we know we need guidance. Like, we know we need somebody. We know we need help, but we never get it. We just sit there and suffer through it.
Well, you never ask for it. Right. You would get it, I believe, if it was asked. And the one thing that I liked, the line that says, "You may find me in the shadow and you may find me in the light." So it's like, and we've talked about this before, it's not like there's not a MO, right? It isn't just a certain like, oh, look at that. He's putting he's pinky up when he drinks tea. He's depressed. There's not a sign, right? Because it's different for everybody. Everybody tries to hide it, keep it together. All the stuff that we learned growing up, right? Don't show your emotions. Don't cry. Don't. If you're asked for help, it's why couldn't you do it on your own? Why are you that weak? You know, those kind of things that run through our heads. And I think that brings even the line that says, "I try my very best," is a point of not asking for help. I'm just going to do it by myself.
Yep.
And you know, under 6 years old, that's a thing, right? Because it's a learning process. They don't do that because they're strong. They just want to do it because that's the next step in what they're doing. But if you're doing it later in life when you're depressed or, have that hopelessness, anxiety, that kind of thing, I think it's that thing where you just think I'll be strong. I can be strong enough to deal with this.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if we're going to get copyright for this just because we're going to be talking about this song the whole time. But, so I heard there's a line in a couple of places. Was it the chorus? Yeah. It says, "And this face I wear for you, goddamn, I wear it well. I'll see you on the other side of hell." Now, when I first heard that, because I've listened to this song 27 times, but when I first heard that line, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like that's kind of like it felt like a depressing way of looking at it. But I don't think that's how they meant it, and we'd love to have them on to discuss how they meant it. But I think when he says, "I'll see you on the other side of hell," he means that's when you'll see him in the light. Right? Getting through hell was getting through this portion of his life, this part of this journey. He just has to get through this and he'll be on the other side of the hell. But it's just funny how I can listen to it 2 different times and get 2 different, completely opposite takeaways from it. Just thinking about how it could have been like, "Oh, I'll see you on the other side of hell," like I'm leaving this earth. But no, I think that they had it where "I'll see you on the other side of hell" as getting through this hell on earth and making my way through it alive.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like when they talked about the mask and how well they wear it, it isn't the first time they've had that on, right? It's just a continuous use of that. And if we walk through that, the whole process of not asking for help, and I know it's kind of an odd analogy, but it's like when doing things growing up, I always did it by myself, and it's just how I did it. Kind of had to. And then as I got older, it was almost hard for me to work with anybody because I had a certain way of doing things. And I think you get to a point where you deal with depression that way too, or you deal with anxiety or whatever it is. It's just like there's almost like I actually didn't know how to let somebody help me. And through the process of actually having help at times and driving me crazy, like watching it, but also seeing that there's other ways of going through it. There's other ways of doing it. And then I started to learn things from the different ways. So it opens up a whole different way of looking at how to ask for help or receive help.
There's another hard hit. Like this whole song, like I cried the first time like I sat down and listened to the lyrics just because it was and if any of you have, I mean, I know you all have streaming services, but go find Poor Man's Poison, Mask in the Mirror. And it says, "There's comfort in the pain sometimes, and I tend to tell myself these little lies, and I feel it like a storm inside. And when I've lost the will to live, I've lost the fight." So it just goes to show you this isn't necessarily a section of his life, or this isn't his whole life. This is just a section of his life. And as long as he doesn't lose the will to live, he hasn't lost the fight. So he always is pushing. He's always got that going forward and making sure he doesn't lose his will to live, and he wants to win the fight. And that's the most important part of this, is that we can't let even the darkest of times let us want to lose the fight.
Well, that's where we need to connect.
Or give up the fight.
Right. We need to connect as much as we can before that we find that spot. And it's just a simple. I think both of you and I have used humor, and sometimes when we're using humor, people are thinking, okay, he's dealing with it in the right way, or he's having he's getting through this. But that's not the case a lot of times, because it's just a way,
right,
you know.
yeah.
And he doesn't really. I mean, in the song they don't use the word mask. That's the word I'm using. They use face, but which
right
is the mask. And it's interesting because it's also the mirror. So you have to look at yourself through this. And
yes.
well, I mean, you don't have to, but there's the opportunity.
And I like, yeah, but I like that they used this face I wear for you. So they didn't use the word mask in the song. They put it in the title, but they didn't put the word in the song. But we all know that's what they meant, because a mask doesn't have to be a physical mask. You know what I mean? Like you just said, the humor can be a mask. A big mask that people use nowadays is attacking other people when you feel insecure. And just there's so many different types of masks that we can find in society now that covers up what we're really feeling or thinking or doing. And it's sad, but it's the world we live in. But we try to take away those masks and let people know they can shed the mask and they don't need it.
Right. And the mask is like I've talked about before, the mask is fine as long as you know you're using it, or when you're using it, because it's a comfort thing. It's it's the security blanket sometimes, and it is that place that you can go to that says, oh, I'm going to put this smile on, even though I'm not, maybe, just not feeling well, or I'm right. feeling a little under the weather, that kind of thing. And people are like, and we do that in stores. Somebody's like, how's it going? Oh, fine. Right. Fine as that mask. It's just that thing that,
yeah.
But the problem, I think a lot of it today is people are trying to use masks that make them feel like they're connected to something, which is almost like a double mask, because you're not authentically being even using your own mask. You're trying to use somebody else's mask and hide behind it.
Yeah. You're trying to copy another mask that you've seen somewhere along the way.
And then that even adds more an unauthentic message, or a more of a hidden message, because the difference is that mask may alienate you, probably will alienate you from a majority of people, because it's not your mask.
Right.
If you went to a masquerade party and you said, I'll be the crocodile, right? And somebody comes up to you and you're like, hey, that's a cool mask. Can I borrow your crocodile mask? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then your wife walks in and like starts talking to the crocodile mask, which was supposed to be yours. So
right.
It throws the whole, it can throw the whole message off. It cannot, but also the person who's trying to communicate with you, when they see that it's not your mask, or then it's going to be even a bigger problem, because it dilutes your mask the more people that use it also. But it also creates it can also create a negative vibe to it.
Negative vibe, how would it How would it create a negative vibe?
So
I'm simple sometimes. You got to explain stuff.
So if if you had like in the situations that's happening in the world, right? So if you had a mask on that was a political figure that the other person didn't like,
right?
Which is pretty easy, right? The
Yeah.
message isn't.
Yeah.
That's not the message that like I don't. It's not that I follow this person. This was just the mask that I picked up in a conversation, or I put this mask on to be with these people, to this group, and then I went to the other group and I still had the mask on. So then they judge you by your mask versus right, and that's not even your mask.
Right.
So it makes it's in the world of judging people, they're going to judge you for what you're wearing or what you're saying, right?
Yeah, whatever mask you show them, that's what you're getting judged on.
Right. One of my favorite shows to work, because I'm always in search of joy. So like Rajiv is one of them. Queer Eye is another one that because I watch not so much what they're doing in their little with their masks on, but how it's changing the other person to take their masks off. Right. So kindness will take a mask off fast as anything else.
Right. Yeah.
And somebody seeing you
start feeling comfortable and welcome.
Right. And somebody seeing you in your mask and saying it's okay to take your mask off, you're safe. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. You don't have to keep that on here. You're safe.
Right. But if they showed up in a cowboy mask or whatever it is, and then somebody that didn't like,
right?
Because I guess in the Village people that would have been different, but if that would have been the process, that mask didn't fit what they were trying to say, right? Or the comfort that they were trying to give. So that's where it creates the negative, because people not just judge the person, but they also judge the mask.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Also, I mean, yeah, it just the world, like you said, the world we live in. So many people are just taking everything at I won't want to say face value, but at first impressions or the shallowly. I don't know. The world's become a much more shallow place, I feel like, than it was a long time ago, because you can have these people who put on this front, or just because they're pretty on the outside, they get, people automatically are like, oh, I want to be like them, or oh, I bet I want to meet them. But then you get people who have the most to say and more important messages, and they get kind of swept under the rug because maybe they don't have that fancy mask on. They don't have this big, facade that they put up to help people come migrate towards them. Because look at all of these TV shows we have now. Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Top Model, all this stuff. And I'm not saying those shows are bad, but it's not showing you the best part of humanity. You know what I mean? Like you said, Queer Eye shows people helping another person, and that I don't know what I don't know. I need a second. Go on. Go. You had a thought.
So the funny thing about and like you said, face value, they don't take it as face value, but in this song, that's what they're talking about. They took him at face value because they thought he was being okay. He put that face on. And one of the things that's just extremely there's certain things in as I've gotten older that just are those things that make me kind of, I don't know, irritated, let's say. Because it says, like the saying, beauty's only skin deep. Right?
Right.
What the?
That was said by someone who didn't have high cholesterol.
But that the beauty is inside. That's what I mean. That's what everybody's trying to. It isn't. Right. It's more than that, right? So that's one of those things that leads right to the same thing you were talking about the superficialness of it, right? And
right. You know, superficialness. That's much more. That's much better than shallowly.
I like shallowly. That sounds like Stan's daughter. Shallowly. But you know, like I said, I work with people, and it's funny the torment that actually pretty people have to go through because they're taking it at face value. Their beauty is only skin deep, is, you know, in that saying. And I'm like, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense at all to me. But we used to say it all the time, right? And I mean, I don't hear it that much now, but I'm not around people that much, so it could be, you know.
You're like a hermit.
But it's
where
it's
would
funny.
you hear it?
To myself, right? The mirror.
In the mirror.
Beauty's only skin deep under this thing I have on my face. This other entity.
Right. But also, like, another part of this. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, another part of this song, I just thought of it. But it's called "The Mask in the Mirror," right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "This mask and this face I wear for you, goddamn, I wear it well." He's talking to himself. He's not talking to other people. He's talking to himself, saying that he was wearing a mask even unto himself. That's how I'm taking it. I could be wrong.
Well,
everybody,
I think that's what the artist wants is you to
get them to
have
come
your
on
own
the podcast.
To have your own. Yeah, I mean, let's have people in the comments or wherever they do this, because we're on YouTube too, is let us know what it meant to them, if they're wearing it for somebody else or wearing it for themselves. I think that makes much more sense, right? Especially with the mirror,
right?
Because the mirror is the, like, right, in the military we had the gig line, and they always had a mirror as you were walking out so that your gig line could be straight, right? Make sure that have the mirror so that not just to see yourself, but to make sure your mask was on correctly. That's deep right there.
Right.
Good job, Bobby. But that's an interesting way to look at it.
I just have to keep going over and over and over it. But I was just thinking, I was just thinking when I came up with that, I was thinking, okay, so we have the mask, but it doesn't reference mask.
Mm-hmm.
But it also doesn't reference mirror. But he is talking to someone else. Is that his mirror self? But it could be both, like you said. Like, it could be either one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and when he says, "I'll see you on the other side of hell,"
like the gig line.
When we get through this storm,
it could be when I get back home.
Right. When we get through
this, it could be when I go outside and come back. Like,
right.
I can take my mask off when I get home. I just have to wear it when I'm outside. But it's, I mean, and this is just one song of all of their songs are amazing. They should be the biggest folk band in the world right now, in my opinion. But I don't. I love that this song was written well enough that we can have so many different points of view and so many different angles that you can come from with this song. This is not a normally written song where you can just be like, oh, this what it means.
Yeah.
Like, I like big butts and I can't like Not Lie by Sir Mix-a-Lot. You know what that song's about. There's no hidden meaning. There's no other way to see it. He likes big butts and he cannot lie about it. But this song made us think for the last 25 minutes about just, 3 minutes of song.
Yeah,
and breaking it down. It's just it's so amazing. I love it.
The cool thing too is that none of it's wrong. We could see it in two different ways, and neither of them be wrong because it's our way of seeing it. It connected with us in a different way. But when you said the mask is for himself, that was I thought that was a huge point. And like I said, we'll see you on the other side of hell is him saying, I'll see myself when I get better, or when I go through this storm.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like we talked with Stephen. It's his motivation to stick around.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's almost just like you said with the gig line, like he's getting ready to go face the world. So he's putting on this face for his true self. And he's so good at wearing it. But once we're through this hell, I'll see myself again. And it's just awesome. I don't know.
It's awesome. Yeah, it is. And the other side of hell could just be back home.
Yeah. It could literally be, okay, hell's outside.
Right.
My happy place is when I get home. I don't have to wear a mask in my own home. I don't have to worry about anybody seeing me or worry or judging me or anything. I can just come home and take my mask off.
Yeah. It'd be like even the movie with The Mask, right?
Right.
He puts on his stuff and he looks in the mirror and he's like, smoking. And when he came home, it was almost the opposite, right? That when he came home, he became himself.
Right.
That's an interesting. I mean, I really love the way you kind of break it down into, because I think it's important for you to have the connection with the song in the first place, for words to make the connection, and then all of a sudden to kind of put it into your heart and say, this, I'm not the only one that's dealing with this, and everybody that listens to this song is going to deal with it in a different way, minutely or hugely different. But seeing you connect with it and seeing it like get you in the feels, let's say, then that's an amazing song to me.
Oh yeah. I mean, and funny thing is, Dad and I have not always agreed on music. So when we find, and I think it's become more as my tastes have matured and they've caught up with yours, I think a little bit more. Like, I have different standards for music than I used to. But I think also if we had a disagreement about a, like, say you said you listened to this song and you didn't like the song, you didn't like the lyrics, whatever, just hypothetically, I think now, not only, and vice versa, but I think now we're in a better place in our relationship and in our lives that we could talk to each other and probably convince the other one of why we thought it was a good song. And that's what I want for everybody. Because, like you said earlier, you can wear this mask around the wrong set of people and then they'll get a bad vibe from you. But we need to stop worrying about opinions, if that makes sense. Like, people's opinions don't necessarily make them who they are. get to know the person despite their, if you guys have a difference of opinion on something, have an educational and respectful debate about that opinion. So many people now are just get into this, I have an opinion on this, and this is how I feel is right, and anybody else that says this is wrong. And that's not what is going to make the world a better place.
No.
This is doing things like respectful debates. I remember the debate club in high school would start off so nice, and then it always got I felt like it always got personal, and that's how the whole world just skipped to the end, where we're not trying to convince the other person of the opinions, we're just attacking their person. And this song, it's all going to come together right now, I promise. This song is why I think we need to get to debating and having respectful talks to each other, because you never know what the mask that person put on before they left the house. You have no clue what any other person is going through, and there might be something that they're going through that makes them wear this mask. And instead of seeing the mask and just disregarding them, try to get them to get comfortable enough, like you said, feel safe enough to remove the mask, and then you can see the true person, not the mask that they're using to hide.
Yeah. Well, in the conversation of debate, I will debate your debate and say we just need to listen. Right? Like listening to you and watching how you react to this song. I couldn't disagree with anything. You said you've changed two or three different things during this time just because it's changed how it connects with you. Right? Or you see a different way of it being possible. That's learning. That's education. For me, just to listen to that and find your joy and the changes, it has nothing to do with what the song says. It's seeing you open to a place of connection with yourself. Right. And I can't say that's right or wrong.
Right.
And when it's like when I had trouble working with people, and I don't mean like I could work with people if they were doing their job, I was doing my job. But if somebody was trying to help me do something, I was terrible.
Right.
But like
the deck.
Right. If I was listening to you and I was saying, you said something about the face and that it was actually the face of him, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. Right. That doesn't make
right.
It is, because it's just what you said. It may not be the same thing I was thinking, but if I have an open mind, I see that, and I was like, man, that's an amazing way to look at it. Versus, I was wrong. You learn from
right,
and that's what I tell people. You learn in the pauses, not in the argument.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing to do, because we stopped listening as a society, I think.
That would have been a perfect
place
because
everybody's always talking.
Oh, my brain!
I should just edit that in when I'm editing. We're not listening. We as a people don't listen, huh?
What was you saying?
Oh my gosh,
I was distracted.
Dad's got jokes.
He's a funny man. Funny man that needs a ride home. Tin Cup. So yeah, I mean, I was impressed. You've opened my musical spectrum, let's say. I mean, like NF. I mean, who would thought I would be listening to rap? I think I brought that one. I was asking you. I was like, "Have you heard of this guy NF?" And you're like, "Yeah, I listen to him all the time."
I listen to him all the time. Dax is another good one. He curses a little bit, but he's got a lot of good music. All right, I think we're at the time for call to actions. What do you think?
Call to action. Listen. And if somebody's asking you something, telling you something, wants to just chat, don't try to fix them. Just listen. If they want help and you give them the space, they'll ask for it. But if it's a place where you're always trying to fix them, and I had this during a session not too long ago with a couple people I was working with, one of the people just kept giving answers. And finally, the lady that they were working with, we were breakout rooms on Zoom, and I said, if you need to just talk, let me know. And they were like, okay. So I went into the room and I just listened to her because she was processing something, and it was her process, not the scholastic guru.
Yeah.
It wasn't their process. So. But that's what I would say is just listen.
My call to action is going to be to tag Poor Man's Poison wherever you see this video posted. If you're watching on YouTube, tag them in the comments. If you're watching on a clip on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, tag them. If you listen to their song, if you want to share their songs, tag us in when you share it. I want Poor Man's Poison on this podcast. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Mythonites.
Yeah, I watched a podcast with them on it, and amazing guys. Really amazing guys.
Yeah, they would be awesome to have on here. It would be so cool. So, and just remember,
you are not broken and you are not alone, and we love you.
We love you. Till next week, goodbye.
Peace out. Backwards again.